Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Really a special day here today for the BBG and for Voice of America. I want to acknowledge some guests here. First, we have three of the BBG governors. Ken Weinstein is here, Karen Kornblue, and Matt Armstrong. Thank you for joining us. And we have members of the ICC as well, Kelu Chao, who we'll be talking about a little bit more in a minute. Libby Liu and Malule Gonzalez and Brian Conniff. Thanks for coming down. Round of applause, please. So, after a long and thorough search, I'm thrilled to announce the selection of Amanda Bennett as the 29th director of the Voice of America. Amanda? Now, before we get to talking about and with Amanda, I wanted to take a minute to acknowledge Kelu Chao. Kelu served with skill, grace, and distinction as VOA's acting director for nearly a year, while also handling her other role as language service director and acting as her own chief of staff at times. She was juggling 3 positions throughout the last 10 months. The board and I congratulate and offer our sincere gratitude to Kelu Chao. And Kelu, would you please join me on stage? So on behalf of the board, I'm pleased to present Kelu with this certificate of appreciation with the words, "For outstanding effort, creativity, leadership, and initiative, and extraordinary contributions to furthering the mission of the BBG through her 10 months as acting VOA director, to inform, engage, and connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy," signed by all of the governors.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be the acting VOA director for nearly a year. This has given me an even deeper appreciation for what we do, day and night, in snowstorms, in sunshine, to millions of people's lives, and through many platforms. I really will give a shout out to the men and women here and abroad of the Voice of America, and I appreciate the board and especially CEO John Lansing's support, and also your selections of Amanda Bennett as our new VOA director. We have turned a new chapter, and I think of the Voice of America will go even better, deeper, and farther going forward. Thank you.
Congratulations, Kelu. The hiring of Amanda Bennett comes at a critical time for the Voice of America, which, like our other BBG networks, is charged with excelling amid the dramatic revolution in media we're experiencing today. In today's complex geopolitical environment, VOA's work is more important than ever, and the board and I are confident that Amanda will lead VOA to meet the challenges required to fulfill VOA's unique, congressionally mandated mission in U.S. international media. Amanda is a talented and highly respected media executive with decades of experience. She's held a series of prestigious roles as a reporter and a newsroom leader, and as a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Here are a few highlights of her career. Until really just recently, she was a contributing columnist for the Washington Post. She's worked for 5 great news organizations in roles of executive editor, managing editor, bureau chief, and reporter, including the Wall Street Journal, the Portland Oregonian, the Lexington Herald-Leader, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and Bloomberg News. In her last job as executive editor at Bloomberg News, she created and ran a global team of investigative reporters and editors. In more than 20 years as a reporter with the Wall Street Journal, she held many posts, including industry reporter, Pentagon and State Department, Beijing Correspondent during the Tiananmen Square period, managing editor, reporter, national economics correspondent, and chief of their Atlanta bureau. Amanda shared a group Pulitzer Prize for national reporting at the Wall Street Journal for a series on how the government was misstating the AIDS crisis. She led a team at the Portland Oregonian that won a Pulitzer Prize for public service for a series on abuses in the immigration and naturalization services. She's earned countless other awards for her work. In addition, she has also authored 6 books, including The Cost of Hope, her memoir of the battle she and Foley, her late husband, fought against his kidney cancer. Amanda also serves on many boards, including service on the Pulitzer Prize board. Now it's time for Amanda to be sworn in as VOA's new director. We're pleased to welcome her here. And Amanda, if you'll join me over here, we'll have a swearing in. Kaylu is going to come and hold the family Bible.
Thank you.
I state your name.
I, Amanda Bennett,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
I take this freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Amanda Bennett.
Audio? Oh, there it is? Okay. So before I start, I just want to echo what John has said about Kaylu. I've had the opportunity now over the last several months to get to know her extremely well. And I know all of you are very, very well aware of what a treasure you have in Kaylu. And I wanted to thank her for being such an outstanding custodian of the role and leaving it in such good shape for me, and also for being such a fantastic colleague for me. So thank you very much, Kaylu. So all of you, my colleagues here in the Cohen building and around the world, it would be pretty hard to overstate just how happy I am to be here today. Many, maybe even most of you, grew up, if not in the same era I did, then at least with the same mindset I'd had, which is that journalism is not just a profession. It's a mission. And we got into journalism not just to make a living, but also to make the world a better place. We wanted to have impact. We wanted to shine light into dark places, to right wrongs, to hold institutions accountable, and to unearth the secrets that the American people needed to know. We knew we'd never get rich, but we also knew we had a purpose. Now, as I was considering joining you here, I heard all the same things you've heard, that the VOA has outlived its purpose, that the flood of stuff flying around the internet has made our kind of work unnecessary. I also heard, as I know you've heard, that the VOA is dysfunctional, that it is beyond repair. And I heard, as I know all you did, the word broken being applied over and over and over again to the VOA. But then I got a chance to speak and meet with many of you here, to admire your expertise, to respect how hard you work, and to observe so much passion and so much commitment to VOA's mission. So how could such characteristics be called dysfunctional? How could an organization made up of such people be thought of as broken? And as for outliving our usefulness, I'll argue along with John Lansing that far from being obsolete, VOA is more vital than ever. The need for a passionate, focused, mission-driven, credible and objective journalistic endeavor of the highest integrity is needed now more than ever. So Voice of America was created in the shadow of one war, World War II, and served an unquestioned purpose during another, the Cold War. Yet, it's impossible to ignore the evidence that we're in another kind of crisis. The mere flood of information across the airwaves and internet is no substitute for the integrity of a focused, credible news organization. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that we don't have to change. We do have to change. We must change. We need to change in a big way. But there's nothing surprising about this. You all have friends and colleagues at news organizations all around the world. You know how we've all struggled to adapt to the dizzying transformation of the media world, to the vast shifts in the way people around the world get their information. And you don't need me to tell you this is going to be hard. I've had the privilege of working for 5 different news organizations, and all of them, big and small, have struggled with the painful process of remaking themselves for this new world. And you're already well into these changes, and you know that it's hard. We have to learn new skills, new ways of thinking. We have to embrace new colleagues and new audiences. We have to figure out how to do the best job we can reaching our readers, listeners, and viewers, the ones who still depend on our traditional ways of giving them news and information. And at the same time, we have a fierce dash to keep pace with a global population that is quickly becoming increasingly sophisticated and connected in ways that many of us could never have imagined when we began our careers. If there's things that are broken, we must work hard to fix them. So, will all the pain be worth it? I think you all know the answer to that question. We are the voice of America. We tell America's story. We help others tell America's story. We bring news and information of the world to those in the world who have no other way of getting it. We listen to our audiences, and we tell them things they've told us they desperately need to know. We're honest, we're unbiased, and we tell the truth. And all you need to do is look around you to know how necessary this work is. So we journalists may be the most privileged of all those who live protected by America's values. We look around and we see free presses increasingly shutting down, being taken over, being threatened by ruling elites. And we look at the almost impossible conditions our colleagues in other countries face as they struggle to practice the journalism that we all know is so vital, all the while facing harassment, interrogation, arrest, torture, and even death. People like our former VOA colleague, Khadija Ikhmalova, now with Radio Free Europe, who's in jail as we speak for her reporting in Azerbaijan. We just need to think of colleagues like her to understand how privileged we are and what a responsibility we have to use our freedoms wisely and well. I expect everyone here to do everything in their power to do that. And I promise you all, I'll do the same. Thank you.
So that was awesome.
This is awesome.
I love being around great journalists and great journalism. I was thinking of some questions here. We also have some mics that we can hand around, but I had a couple of things I thought I'd start off with. I was thinking if I was in Voice of America, what would be on my mind as somebody new with such a great reputation coming in. And one of the thoughts I had is just, what's your leadership style? What's it like to work for you in a news organization?
So remember, I spent a good chunk of my career as an investigative journalist trying to find out things that were hidden behind walls and bring it out. So I decided it's probably just better to be open in the first place. So I like being open, I like being transparent, I love cooperating. I do things much better with other people than I do by myself. And I see that I'm going to have a fantastic leadership team here, and I think that all of us are going to be able to work together to do what we need to do.
I remember when you and I first met, we were talking about this, and you were describing your work at the Portland Oregonian, setting up that investigative unit, and I thought it was just fascinating the way you were, the style that you had sort of invited the kind of story ideas to come in that eventually led to another Pulitzer Prize for you.
Yeah, and a lot of the things you don't even know where they originally came from. It was the power of the group. The group together was stronger than all of us put together, and that's something I really firmly believe in.
So let's go back in time to when you were a reporter yourself in China. Talk just a little bit, some anecdotes maybe about your time reporting on the ground in China.
Sure, well, first off, everybody always makes a mistake. They always say I was the Beijing correspondent. In fact, I was there long ago enough that I was actually the Peking correspondent. So I was there before the reform started, and it was, I'm sure all of you know that have had foreign assignments, the most exciting thing in the world to know that you're there as I was working for the Wall Street Journal at the time, as a representative of the world's biggest and most important capitalist economy, watching the world's biggest and most important communist economy and trying to figure out how they were going to learn to work together. It was so exciting.
And was there an investigative component to that period of your work?
You know, honestly, it was so long ago that the investigative reporting component was simply getting people to talk to you. That was it took every ounce of your creativity to try and figure out how to just simply get people to talk.
So we've had a lot of conversations around here recently about the role of impact in journalism. I know you and I have had that conversation. I think, if I'm not mistaken, even the definition of a Pulitzer Prize entry describes it as having impact. Can you talk a little bit about your sense of what journalism's role is and how you think about impact as a result of journalism?
Well, so think about, again, the power of the powers that we have. It would be a shame to waste them by not aiming to do things that affect things. That doesn't mean doing things in a biased way. It means doing things in an open way. So if you create knowledge, if you affect change, if you right wrongs, those things are all impact, and that's, I believe, what we all got into journalism for. So it's not enough to simply describe events. You have to be able to help explain events. You have to be able to help show what's going on behind events. These things all constitute impact, and it seems to me that impact really is what we're in this business for.
So who was your best boss, I'm curious, along the way, and what did you like about he or she?
My first boss, my best boss, was a guy named Chuck Camp, who was the bureau chief of the Detroit Bureau back when the Detroit Bureau was the most important bureau of the Wall Street Journal, because the auto industry still represented about 10% of the American economy. And what he was great about was he loved his work. He loved, loved, loved his work. And we laughed all the time, and we had fun, and we saw ourselves as trying to the auto industry had secrets, and we were going to find them out. That was our job. And so we would stay. I can remember just watching the sun go down and looking at the clock and realizing it was 9 o'clock at night, and I thought, well, geez, I better get to work, and realizing I'd been working all along because it was just so much fun. And so I like having fun. So I hope we'll all have fun together.
Are there any questions from anybody in the audience? There's one in the back. I see a hand up. We have mics to hand out. Here it is. Please introduce yourself too.
Hi, my name is Arash Alai. I'm a reporter with the Persian Service and the host of the VOA Persian Service Technology Show. First of all, congratulations. My question, given the fact that you have quite a background in investigative reporting, and the fact that on Voice of America, we haven't been able to provide as many investigative reportings as our audiences usually requires us to. What is your plan in order to put investigative reporting back on VOA's agenda again? Thank you.
So thank you for asking that question. You know, as I mentioned, I've skipped around jobs a bit, and I've worked for five different news organizations. Every time I've entered a news organization, I've found that somewhere within the actual organization, there's always people who have ideas for investigative stories. In fact, maybe working on them secretly. And so, and have skills and talents that they didn't know they had. And so I find it doesn't really work for me to come in and say, here's an investigative project, let's do it. I want to go in and say, okay, what are you guys looking at? What do you guys want to investigate? What do you guys want to work on? And I find that there hasn't been a place I've entered yet where there isn't just a wealth of stuff come out. So basically discovery and kind of support, I think, is the biggest way I plan to do that.
Anybody else? Here's a mic over here.
Well, I have congratulations to come to VOA, and this is a very different animal than all the organizations who worked before. That's what I found out a few years ago. Here's the question. What is your vision of Voice of America? What do you want to bring Voice of America into? I know you want to bring it to a new media, 21st century, but what's your vision? What do you think, what the impact would be what you want Voice of America to have? The vision. And I have to be honest with you, and I see lots of our leaders have no vision. That's the major problem of this place.
Well, first off, I think you all actually know what the vision is. It's embedded in the name. We're the voice of America. And so America is a big, very exciting beat. I mean, I covered the auto industry. What's the difference? You know, look at the America. It includes all of it. So that's one thing. We are the voice of America. We tell America's stories. But we also, as I mentioned, we use America's values of a free press and a fair press to bring news to the countries where our audiences are, where they have no other way to access that. I think those are two pretty awesome things. The vision isn't something mysterious and that we're going to have to discover. The vision is right there in front of us. And I think the more we sort of embrace the vision that we have already and work on doing it much better, I think we're going to find that the vision is very powerful. Being the voice of America is a very, very powerful vision.
So let me build on that. I know there's another question, just build on that. As you know, as you've said, part of the congressional mandate is to tell America's story, and you've had a chance over the last several months to really look at VOA a lot. How are we doing telling America's story, and how can we improve in telling America's story?
So I think America's story is a lot bigger than we're acknowledging it. America's story is it's foreign policy, it's agriculture. What are we good at? Medicine, education, technology. Persian service, sir, back there. I mean, I think Iranians are incredibly interested in entrepreneurialism. I mean, we could just knock ourselves out covering entrepreneurialism all day for an Iranian audience. The Chinese, they're super interested in investment and money, and like Warren Buffett is one of their big heroes, go figure. So there's all kinds of things that we have that are interesting, unique, that are really amazingly interesting to cover, that I think there's tremendous opportunity for us to have a broader scope and to have more fun and be more interesting and tell people stories in the other parts of the world that they're actually super interested in learning about.
Great. Okay, please go ahead.
Hello, Director. I'm Jeffrey Young. I'm an investigative reporter. Your predecessor, David Ensor, made me VOA's corruption correspondent, and that's what I did every week. I just spent last week in Prague in the Czech Republic. I was there not only performing investigative journalism, but training investigative journalists in data-driven journalism. I've done a number of these training missions. My point is, we do investigative journalism. It is an important component of what we do, and we reach out and train others, because by making others aware of the tools of investigative journalism, we're helping them build and sustain democratic societies. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Here's one right back here.
I want to also congratulate you for the great important mission. My name is Mutlu. I'm from VOA Kurdish Service. You mentioned about the change, inability of change. In terms of social media and digital media, what would you like to bring change? You also talked about VOA being the voice of the United States. I believe, like you also mentioned, we have great, talented journalists here. For example, in our service, the Kurdish service, we have stringers on the ground, very close to fighting fight against the ISIL group. But I think we have to improve to sell our unique products to the market. I see, for example, BBC, a little report, they can market all around. They can really great capital for themselves from that report. But whereas we create as good, maybe even better reports, unique reports, how can we do it more effective? How can we make the international audience be aware of that and make the voice of our stringers on the ground heard more and more effectively? Thank you.
And that's the task I told you that every news organization around the world is struggling with, and I think we've got a ton of opportunity there, both via social media to help our audiences see and engage with us better, but also, I mean, as you say, I was amazed when I came in here to discover the quality of reporting and the sheer courage of people that are reporting on the ground here. And I think one of the things we need to do is make sure that other people see as well as we do what's going on inside this building. So part of it is getting better at what we do, and part of it is getting better at telling other people what we do.
Here's one way in the back there. Thank you. Is that Jim?
Hi, welcome, Madam Director. My name is Jim Malone with the Central Newsroom. I cover politics, the election here. And it's good that we're going to have a fresh start here. In recent years, we've noticed at times pressure from within, sort of governmental pressure on conforming to certain policies or emphasizing policies at the expense of journalism in the view of some of us. And now you're coming in from the outside, bringing those kind of journalistic standards, which is great. And I just wondered, in your mind, how do you see the confluence of government, possible pressures, and our role as journalists? Thank you.
So what does the charter say about that? The charter says that our role is to be fair, objective journalists that tell both the good and the bad. Now that doesn't mean that when people give you suggestions or ideas, that taking those ideas means being biased. Every so often people outside this organization have pretty good ideas. And I think you ought to accept ideas that are good ideas from wherever they come. But as for the word pressure, I think there's no room in the Voice of America for pressure. But again, if the ideas are good, I'll take them for wherever they come.
Okay, well, maybe just wrapping up, how about just life outside of work? Tell us a little bit about the side of you that's not your journalist side, your personal side. What do you enjoy doing?
So before I moved to Washington, the only time I ever used to come to Washington was I was a member of a rollerblading club, and we used to meet at the Washington Monument and rollerblade all around the monuments. And the trick was to go fast enough the Park Service wouldn't kick you out. So that's one of the things I like to do.
All right, well, on that note, then we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Amanda Bennett.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Hey, buddy. Thanks.